5 years without touching her, living a lie until the millionaire decided to reclaim his wife. Clara Bennett stood by the window, watching the sun rise over the hills of Beverly Hills. 5 years. 5 long years since she had said I do to Nathan Collins, the most wanted, powerful, and unreachable man in Los Angeles. A picture-perfect wedding, but empty on the inside. She remembered every detail of the ceremony, the flawless dress, the cameras, the flashes, the rehearsed vows. But Nathan's eyes that night hadn't said love. They had only said deal. A deal that would save the Bennett family company from bankruptcy and give him a strategic ally, a contract sealed with wedding rings. Now the mansion had become a symbol of what she had turned into. An elegant shadow trapped between luxury and silence. Breakfast was always set before 8. She ate alone. Nathan rarely showed up. When he did, it was nothing more than a cold good morning before he went back to his phone, as if the real world only existed on the screen. But that morning, something felt different. When Clara walked down the marble stairs, she found him at the table. Nathan was there, and he was looking at her. "Good morning." His voice was calm, but there was something else almost curious. Clara paused for a second, surprised to see him up so early. "Good morning," she replied cautiously. "Did something happen?" He set his cup down. "Yes, there's a gala tonight. I want you to come with me." For a moment, she thought she had misheard. 5 years of silence, and now an invitation. A gala? She blinked, trying to process. "With me?" "Yes." He didn't look up much. "It's important for the company. Be ready by 7. Clara bit her lip. The tone was still distant. But there was something different about the way he asked, like there was more he wasn't saying. "All right," she said, hiding her unease. "I'll be ready." Nathan simply nodded and left the room with his usual firm steps. But as he passed her, his scent, the same since their wedding day, felt stronger, more present. The day dragged on. Clara tried to focus on getting ready, but her mind wouldn't stop. Why now? Why, after 5 years of being invisible, did he suddenly want her by his side in public? While the hairstylist curled her hair in soft waves, she looked in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. The red dress made her eyes stand out, and her mother's pearl necklace felt like a memory from a life she used to know. "You were born to be loved, not displayed," echoed in her mind words her mother had once said before she passed away. Clara took a deep breath. Tonight could be the start of something, or just another display of appearances. At exactly 7, Nathan knocked on her bedroom door. When Clara opened it, he stood there in a perfect dark suit, his eyes more intense than usual. For a moment, something inside her trembled. "Ready?" he asked, his voice slightly off balance. "Yes." They walked side by side toward the car, their footsteps echoing through the hallway like an unspoken conversation. Inside the limousine, the silence was heavy. Nathan checked his phone. Clara looked out the window, their reflections blending on the glass. "This is what we are," she thought. Reflections that never touch. But then, in the middle of that silence, he spoke. "It's important that you stay close to me tonight. People. They'll want to meet you." Clara looked up, surprised. Finally, after 5 years, he turned away without answering. The tension between them felt like a wire pulled too tight, ready to snap. The event hall was stunning, full of golden lights and cheerful voices. The air smelled like champagne and ambition. The moment they walked in, every eye turned to them. Nathan Collins, millionaire CEO of Collins Industries, accompanied by his mysterious wife that almost no one had ever seen. Clara felt the flashes and the whispers. For a second, she wished she could disappear. But when Nathan turned to introduce her, "This is my wife, Clara Bennett Collins," something unexpected happened. He smiled. A real one. It was quick, subtle, but genuine. That small gesture made her heart skip a beat. As they moved through the crowd of executives and investors, she kept her posture until a friendly voice came from behind. "Mrs. Collins." She turned. "I'm Alex Carter, investor with Westfield Group." The man was charming, with a warm smile and sincere eyes. Finally, meeting the most mysterious woman in Los Angeles. Clara laughed, caught off guard by his easy tone. "Mysterious? I think that's a kind way to say reclusive." He laughed out loud. Nathan, standing next to her, kept a neutral expression, too neutral. Alex kept the conversation going, amused, and soon Clara felt alive. For the first time in years, someone saw her. Someone listened. But with every laugh, Nathan grew quieter. His gaze turned colder. Later that night, when Alex stepped away to take a phone call, Nathan leaned toward her discreetly. "You seem to be enjoying yourself." Clara raised her eyebrows. "Maybe because someone finally wanted to talk to me." Nathan looked away, taking a deep breath. The dinner went on with laughter, toasts, and conversation. Clara felt strangely light. There was something freeing about being seen not just as the CEO's wife. But as the night went on, Nathan's eyes became more restless. He watched her every move, every word, every smile. Until, at the end of the event, Alex came back to say goodbye. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Clara. I hope to see you again soon." Before she could answer, Nathan stepped forward, firm. "I doubt it. My wife has a full schedule." Clara froze. His tone wasn't just protective. It was possessive. The drive home was silent, but different. The air between them felt charged. Clara stared out the window, trying to figure out what had changed about him, and about herself. When the car stopped in front of the mansion, she turned to say something, but Nathan was already watching her. His eyes weren't cold like before. They were intense, confused, almost human. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he broke the silence. "You surprised a lot of people tonight, including you?" she asked softly. He hesitated. "Including me," and he stepped out of the car before she could say anything else. Clara stayed there a few seconds alone, trying to understand what had just happened. There was something new in the air, something she wasn't sure was hope or danger. She went upstairs, and when she entered the bedroom, she looked at herself in the mirror. For the first time in 5 years, she felt alive and scared of what that meant. From his own bedroom window, Nathan watched the city lights reflecting in his eyes. He didn't know what he was feeling, but one thing was clear. For the first time, he truly saw her. The next morning, Clara came down for breakfast, expecting the mansion to be empty as always. But Nathan was there again, sitting at the table, pretending to read the paper but clearly waiting for her. "Good morning," he said without looking up. "Good morning," Clara replied cautiously. 2 mornings in a row. That was definitely not normal. She poured herself some coffee, feeling his eyes on her back. When she turned, she saw it. Nathan was watching her over the paper, like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "Is something wrong?" Clara asked, raising one eyebrow. "No," he replied too quickly, lowering his eyes back to the paper. So obviously, she almost laughed. Almost. The next few days were full of strange moments. Nathan started showing up in places he never used to go: in the living room while she read, in the kitchen while she made tea. Once Clara even caught him standing at the door of her office, just staring. "Do you need something?" she asked, clearly surprised. "No, just passing by." "Passing by?" Clara frowned. "Nathan, this door leads nowhere. It's an office, a dead-end hallway." He cleared his throat, uncomfortable, and walked away quickly. Clara sat there, pen in hand, totally confused. Is he sick? Did he hit his head? Do millionaire businessmen go through midlife crises before they're 40? But the strangest part was yet to come. On Thursday morning, Clara walked into the kitchen and found a cup of coffee already made with milk, just the right amount, exactly how she liked it. She looked around, half expecting hidden cameras. "Nathan," she called, suspicious. He peered in the doorway, trying to look casual. "Yes? Did you do this?" Clara pointed to the cup like it was evidence in a crime. "Do what?" "The coffee. You made coffee for me?" Nathan shrugged, but the faint redness on his ears gave him away. "I was making mine. I made yours too. It's no big deal." Clara picked up the cup slowly, as if it might explode. "In 5 years of marriage, you've never made coffee for me. Maybe I should have done it sooner." The comment caught her off guard. She took a sip, still watching him with suspicion. The coffee was perfect, and somehow that bothered her more than it should have. "Thank you," she said at last, still confused. Nathan just nodded and walked away, leaving her alone with the coffee and 1,000 unanswered questions. Those questions grew even more when that afternoon Clara's phone rang. It was Alex Carter. She looked at the screen, hesitant. There was nothing wrong with answering. He seemed like a genuinely kind person, but something inside her hesitated. Before she could decide, Nathan walked into the room. "Who is it?" Clara almost dropped the phone. "What? You startled me." "Sorry," but his eyes were fixed on the phone. "Who's calling?" "Alex Carter. From the event." Nathan's expression changed. Something dark flickered in his eyes. "And are you going to answer?" "I don't know." Clara frowned. "Why does it matter?" "It doesn't." "Then why are you looking at me like I'm about to sell company secrets?" Nathan looked away. "I just think you should be careful who you get involved with." Clara crossed her arms. "Get involved, Nathan?" "The man just said hello to me at an event. We're not planning to run away to Mexico." "Good. Are you jealous?" "No." The answer came too quickly. Too defensive. Clara almost smiled. Almost? But there was something there, something that confused and irritated her at the same time. For 5 years, Nathan had treated her like furniture, and now, all of a sudden, he cared who was calling her. "You know," Clara said, her voice firmer now. "If you have something to say, Nathan, say it. Because this strange little dance is making me dizzy." He took a deep breath but said nothing. He just left the room, leaving her still holding the phone. The call went to voicemail. In the days that followed, Alex's messages kept coming. They were polite, light, nothing too forward. "Hope you're doing well. It was great meeting you. If you need anything, I'm here." Clara never replied, but Nathan always seemed to know when a message came through, as if he had some newly installed emotional radar. "Him again?" he asked one time, seeing her looking at her phone. "Nathan, are you watching me?" "No, I just noticed things." "You never noticed anything in 5 years," Clara snapped, tired. "And now, suddenly you're a private detective? Maybe I should have noticed sooner." That caught her off guard. She stared at him, looking for sarcasm. But Nathan looked sincere, and that was even more confusing. "What's going on with you?" Clara asked, softer now. "Nothing. I just—" He paused, searching for the right words. "I just want you to know that." Clara's phone rang again. It was Alex. Nathan froze. His eyes narrowed. His jaw tightened. Before Clara could react, he grabbed the phone from her hand. "What are you doing?" Clara tried to take it back, but Nathan had already answered. "Hello." His voice was ice. "Yes, this is Nathan Collins, Clara's husband." A pause. "No. She can't talk right now. Not later. Not ever. Thank you for your interest. Have a good day." And he hung up. Clara stood frozen, her mouth open, her brain trying to process what just happened. You didn't just do that." "I did. You had no right." "I have every right. You're my wife." "On paper," Clara shouted. The pain she had buried for 5 years finally spilled out. "I'm your wife on paper, Nathan. You never treated me like a wife. You never looked at me, never talked to me, never cared. And now suddenly you act like you have some claim over me? I've always had a claim." "No." The tears started falling, but the anger was stronger. "You have no right. You ignored me for 5 years. 5 years, Nathan. I lived in this house like a ghost. And now that someone finally sees me, you want to play the jealous husband? I'm not playing." "Then what are you doing?" Clara was shaking now. Years of silence crashing down at once. "Why now? Why do I suddenly matter?" Nathan stepped forward, his voice low but intense. "Because I don't want to lose you." The silence that followed was deafening. Clara stared at him, trying to understand if she had heard him right. The words echoed in the room, heavy, real, impossible. "You... what?" "I don't want to lose you, Clara." She shook her head, backing away. "You can't do this. You can't ignore me for 5 years and then say something like that as if it's simple. I know I can't, but it's the truth. And I'm supposed to believe you." Her voice was a shaky whisper. "Now, after everything?" Nathan didn't answer. He just looked at her with a vulnerability Clara had never seen before. She couldn't take it. She turned and ran to the bedroom, locking the door behind her. She leaned against the wood, sliding to the floor, her hands trembling. For the first time in 5 years, her heart was racing because of him, and she didn't know if it was the beginning of something or the end of everything. The next morning, Clara woke up with swollen eyes and a heavy head. She hadn't slept at all. Nathan's words echoed in her mind like an annoying song she couldn't shake. I don't want to lose you. She looked at herself in the mirror and sighed. Great. Now I look like a raccoon that hasn't slept. She went downstairs, expecting the house to be empty like it usually was before all the chaos started. But no, Nathan was in the kitchen, wearing an apron. Clara stopped halfway down the stairs, blinking a few times to make sure she wasn't seeing things. Good morning, he said, forcing a smile that looked more like a grimace. Good morning. Clara walked over slowly, like she was approaching a wild animal. Are you wearing an apron? I am. Why? Because I'm cooking. Clara looked at the stove, where something was steaming in a pot, something that had once been food a long time ago. Is that edible? Nathan glanced at the pot and frowned. It's supposed to be an omelet. Supposed to be. It's not going very well, Nathan. It's black. Omelets aren't black. Charcoal is black. He turned off the stove, clearly embarrassed. I just wanted to do something nice. Clara bit her lip to keep from laughing, but it was hard. Very hard. Nice would be coffee. You make good coffee. I wanted to impress you. Well, mission accomplished. I'm impressed. Terrified, but impressed. Nathan took off the apron, looking defeated. I'm not good at this at cooking. That's clear. He paused. At getting close to you. Clara's heart skipped a beat. She cleared her throat, trying to keep the mood light. Well, setting the kitchen on fire is a bold approach. He almost smiled. Almost. They stood there for a moment, the silence broken only by the annoying beep of the smoke detector. I think we should open the windows, Clara said, already moving. Nathan helped, and for a few minutes they worked side by side, waving towels to get the smoke out. It was ridiculous, completely absurd, but somehow almost comfortable. Are you wearing cologne? Clara asked suddenly. Nathan froze. I am. I've never seen you wear cologne in the morning. Maybe I should have worn it before. Clara rolled her eyes, but a small smile tugged at her lips. You're acting strange, Nathan. I know, and it's making me suspicious. It should. She stared at him, trying to figure out what he was thinking. But Nathan had been a closed book for so long, she didn't even know where to start. The rest of the day was filled with strange little moments. Nathan offered her a ride to the salon. She said no, but he insisted. In the car, he tried to make small talk. Your hair looks different. Clara touched the ends. It's been the same for 3 years. Oh, well, it looks nice. Thank you. Awkward silence. And that dress? Is it new? Nathan, you saw me wear this dress at the event. Oh, right. Well, still looks nice. Clara held back a laugh. Are you okay? Did you hit your head? Food poisoning? No, I'm just trying. What? He didn't answer. Just kept driving, that serious look on his face. But something about him felt different, almost vulnerable. That night, Nathan did something even more surprising. He got to the dining room before she did and lit candles. Clara stopped at the door. What's going on here? Dinner. He pulled out a chair for her. Please sit, Nathan. Please. She sat down, still suspicious. The table was set. The candles flickered, and Nathan looked nervous. All right, Clara said, crossing her arms. Let's talk. About what? About all of this. She gestured around. The coffee, the ride, the candles, you burning the kitchen. What's going on? Nathan took a deep breath. I'm trying to fix things. Why? Because I should have done it before. That doesn't answer my question. Clara leaned forward. Why now, Nathan? After 5 years? He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again, but said nothing. Clara sighed. That's what I thought. It's not easy to explain. Then try. But Nathan just looked away, and the silence returned. Dinner continued in that strange mix of discomfort and something that almost felt like peace. Nathan tried to keep the conversation going. He asked about her day, made random comments. Clara responded cautiously, but little by little she relaxed. Until he said, Tomorrow, what do you think about having dinner out? Clara raised an eyebrow. Are you asking me on a date? I am. Nathan, we're married. I know, but we never had a real date. She didn't know what to say. Part of her wanted to laugh. Another part wanted to cry. And a third part, small but stubborn, wanted to say yes. I'll think about it. she said at last. Nathan seemed to take that as a victory. Later, while Clara was washing dishes because Nathan had insisted on cooking again, and the result was questionable, she looked out the window. He was in the yard on the phone, gesturing wildly, probably talking about business as always. But when he hung up and came back inside, he was holding a flower, a single white rose. "For you." Clara took the rose, not sure whether to laugh or cry. "You cut it from the garden?" "Yes. It's our rose." "Nathan, you can't just go around picking flowers from the landscaping. The gardener's going to have a fit." "He'll survive." Clara smelled the rose, and something inside her shifted, something small, fragile, and a little scary. "Thank you," she said softly. At that moment, Clara's phone buzzed on the table. They both looked at it. Clara picked up the phone, and the screen lit up a message from Alex Carter. "Hi, Clara. I know we haven't talked since the event, but I'd really like to. Do you have time for coffee tomorrow?" The mood changed instantly. Nathan saw the message. Clara saw that he saw it. "It's him again," Nathan said, his voice low and controlled, dangerously controlled. "Nathan, are you going to answer him?" "I don't know." "What do you mean you don't know?" "Because I have the right to answer if I want to." Clara raised her voice, finally out of patience. "You can't control everything." "I'm not trying to control. I'm trying to protect." "Protect me from what? A polite man who wants to have coffee?" Nathan clenched his fists. His jaw was tight, eyes too dark. "You really don't get it, do you?" "Get what?" But he didn't answer. He just grabbed his car keys and walked out, slamming the door behind him. Clara stood there, alone in the dining room, holding her phone and the white rose, her heart torn between anger and something she couldn't name. She stood still in the middle of the dining room, staring at the door Nathan had just walked through. The white rose was still in her hand, its soft petals in sharp contrast to the storm in her chest. "Men," she muttered, putting the flower in a glass of water, a mystery wrapped in testosterone and pride. She tried watching TV, tried reading, even tried organizing the kitchen drawers. Nothing worked. Every time a car passed by, her heart jumped, hoping it was his. It wasn't. The hours dragged on. 10, 11, midnight. Clara went upstairs to her room but couldn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, going over everything that had happened the past few days. The Nathan she knew would never have burned an omelet just to impress her. Never would have picked a rose. Never would have shown jealousy. Something had changed, but what? Finally, at 2:15 inches the morning, she heard the front door open, heavy footsteps in the hallway, a pause, then soft knocks on her bedroom door. "Clara." She sat up in bed, her heart pounding. "Come in." Nathan opened the door slowly. He looked a mess, hair tousled, tie loose. He looked exhausted. "Are you okay?" Clara asked, worry winning over her anger. "No." He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. "I'm not okay." "Nathan, let me talk." His voice was urgent. "Please, I need to say this." Clara nodded, hugging her knees. Nathan took a deep breath. His hands were slightly shaking. "I drove around for hours, tried to understand what I was feeling, tried to make sense of it, but I can't anymore. I can't pretend it doesn't matter." "What doesn't matter?" "You." The word burst out of him with a force that made Clara flinch. "You matter, Clara. You've always mattered." The silence that followed was so heavy she could feel it pressing on her chest. "I don't understand," she said weakly. "I want you." Nathan took a step closer, his eyes shining with raw emotion. "I've always wanted you since the wedding day, even before that." Clara shook her head. No, you can't say that now. Not after 5 years. I know I can't, but it's the truth." "Then why?" The tears started to fall. "Why did you ignore me? Why did you treat me like I was invisible?" Nathan ran his hands down his face, clearly struggling. "Because I was scared." "Scared?" Clara almost laughed, but it came out broken. "You're Nathan Collins. You're not afraid of anything. I was afraid of you." He looked right at her. "Afraid of what you made me feel, of how much I wanted you. My father, he always said emotions were weakness. That love was a dangerous distraction in business. And I believed him. I thought if I kept my distance, if I didn't get too close, I'd be safe." "Safe from what?" "From getting hurt. From losing control." From becoming vulnerable. Clara wiped the tears from her face with the back of her hand. You hurt me, Nathan. You hurt me every day for 5 years. I know. His voice broke. And I'm sorry. More than I can put into words. But when I saw you at that event, laughing with that man, being yourself, I realized what I was losing. I realized how silly my fear was compared to the thought of really losing you. Clara wanted to believe. She really did. But 5 years of rejection didn't just vanish because of a nice speech. Words are easy, Nathan. Then let me prove it. He got down on one knee in front of her, holding her hands. Give me a chance to show you I've changed, that I want to be the kind of husband you deserve. She looked at his hands wrapped around hers. They were warm, steady, real. I don't know if I can trust you again. I'll earn your trust every day, for as long as it takes. In the days that followed, Nathan kept his word. He got up early to have breakfast with her, asked about her plans, her thoughts, her dreams, brought her flowers, made awful jokes that made her roll her eyes but also smile. One morning he came into the room where she was reading. I need your help. Clara looked up from her book. With what? The company. We're working on a new deal, and I want your opinion on the proposal. She blinked, surprised. My opinion about business? You studied business, didn't you? Before we got married. I did, but then you get it, and I trust your judgment. Clara didn't know what shocked her more, him remembering her studies or him asking for her help. That afternoon she went to his office. Nathan showed her the documents, explained the terms, and asked what she thought. Clara looked everything over carefully and pointed out a few risky clauses he had missed. You're right, Nathan said, clearly impressed. That could have caused problems down the line. I had a great professor in college. He used to say, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist. Smart guy, Nathan smiled. Thank you, Clara. Really? She smiled back. And for the first time in 5 years, she felt seen, appreciated. The weeks went by, and the distance between them started to shrink. Nathan included her in decisions. He listened when she spoke. He laughed at her jokes, even the bad ones. And Clara slowly began to let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this was real. One night, after a light dinner where they'd laughed about old stories and shared forgotten memories, Nathan looked at her differently. You know, he said softly, I can't remember the last time I felt this at peace. Me neither, Clara admitted. They were sitting on the couch, closer than usual. Nathan reached out and gently touched her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. You're beautiful. Clara's heart sped up. Nathan, may I? He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she didn't. His lips were just inches from hers when Clara felt a wave of panic rise. The tears came out of nowhere, warm and sudden. Wait. She pulled back, her voice shaking. Please wait. Nathan stopped immediately, concern in his eyes. What is it? Did I do something wrong? No, it's not you. Clara wiped her tears, breathing deeply. I need to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. It's okay. You can tell me anything. Clara closed her eyes, gathering her courage. When she opened them, she spoke in a whisper. We never. She took another deep breath. Nathan, I'm still a virgin. The silence that followed felt endless. Nathan stared at her, taking in her words. 5 years of marriage and we never. She couldn't finish the sentence. You never wanted to. You never tried. And I held on to that like it was my fault. Like I wasn't good enough. Nathan cupped her face gently in his hands. Please stop. It wasn't your fault. Never was. It was mine, my cowardice, my own stupid fear. I felt so rejected for so long. Clara, look at me. He waited until her eyes met his. You are the most amazing woman I've ever known. Beautiful, smart, strong. And I was a complete fool for not showing you that every single day. But that ends now. I promise I will spend the rest of my life showing you how special you are in your time, in your way. No pressure. You promise? I promise. And when Nathan pulled her into his arms, Clara finally let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could truly start over. Nathan held her for a long time, like he was afraid she'd vanish if he let go. When they finally pulled apart, he gently wiped the tears from her cheeks with his thumbs. "Thank you," Clara whispered. "For what?" "For not making me feel wrong." "You were never wrong, Clara. I was the one who couldn't see." She gave a small smile. "Well, technically you were a lot of things: blind, deaf, emotionally blocked." Nathan let out a genuine laugh. "Blocked? Got a better word?" "Nope. That one fits." They both laughed, and it felt freeing, like finally they could just be themselves. The next morning, something had changed, not just in Nathan or Clara, but in the atmosphere of the house itself. It was as if the sunlight came through the windows differently, warmer, more welcoming. Clara came downstairs for breakfast and found Nathan in the kitchen. No burnt omelet this time, but pancakes perfectly golden. "Did you watch YouTube tutorials all night?" Clara asked, impressed. "Maybe." "Seriously?" Nathan blushed a little. "I just wanted to make something that didn't taste like charcoal." Clara took a pancake and bit into it. It was delicious. "Wow. You really did learn. I can be teachable when I'm motivated." "And what motivated you?" she asked, a playful sparkle in her eyes. "You." The answer was simple, direct, honest. Clara felt her heart skip a little. It was still strange, this new version of Nathan, but it was a good kind of strange. The days that followed were eye-opening. Nathan started waking up early just to have breakfast with her. He asked about her plans for the day, about the books she was reading, about what she thought about absolutely everything. One afternoon, while Clara was watering the garden, Nathan showed up with 2 ice creams. "Thought you might like this." "Ice cream? In the middle of the afternoon?" Clara pretended to be shocked. "Who are you, and what have you done with my husband?" "Your husband was boring. This one's the upgraded version, version 2.0. Now with emotional features and pancake-making skills." Clara laughed, accepting the ice cream. They sat on the garden bench side by side in a comfortable silence. "You know," Clara said after a while, "I could get used to this." "To what?" "To you. Like this. Present." Nathan laced his fingers with hers. "I'm not going anywhere." At night, they started having real dinners together, not just sitting at the same table, but actually talking, laughing, sharing stories. Nathan told her about ridiculous work meetings, and Clara replied with such sharp comments that he almost choked from laughing. "How do you make the Collins Industries board sound like a comedy?" Nathan asked one night. "It's a natural gift," Clara shrugged. "You serious business people are basically sitcom characters waiting for a script." "Is that comforting or concerning?" "Both." One night, while watching a movie, Clara rested her head on Nathan's shoulder. He froze for a moment, like he was afraid to ruin it. Then slowly he put his arm around her. "Is this okay?" he asked, uncertain. "It's perfect." And it was. For the first time in 5 years, Clara felt at home in her own home. Nathan also changed in other ways. He became slightly jealous, but in an almost comical way. When the grocery delivery guy smiled a bit too much at Clara, Nathan suddenly appeared. "Need help with the bags?" "Nathan, he's the delivery guy. That's literally his job." "I know. Just being helpful." Clara rolled her eyes but smiled. It was ridiculous, but also sweet. One morning, Nathan walked into her room with a proposal. "I want you to work with me." Clara, who was picking out an outfit, paused. "What do you mean?" "At the company. You're good at this, Clara. I saw how you handled that contract. I need someone like that on my team." "Are you serious?" "Completely. Only if you want to, of course. No pressure." Clara thought for a moment. The idea was exciting, terrifying, but exciting. "All right. Let's give it a try." And so, Clara started working at Collins Industries. At first, it was strange. People looked at her with curiosity, unsure how to treat her. After all, she was the mysterious wife of the CEO. But Clara had a special way of breaking the ice with humor. When the executive assistant, Janet, hesitated to hand her a stack of documents to review, Clara said, "Janet, I promise I can read. I even have a diploma and everything." Janet laughed, relaxing. "Sorry, Mrs. Collins. I just didn't want to overload you. Call me Clara, and please overload me. I love paperwork. I'm weird like that." From that day on, Janet became an ally. Clara was reviewing old contracts in the office when she found a folder labeled "Confidential," Bennett-Collins merger. Curious, she opened it. They were documents from their marriage, not the beautiful ceremony everyone saw, but what came before. The terms, the conditions, the clauses. She began to read. The union between the Bennett and Collins families aims to strategically consolidate both business empires. All right, she already knew that. But then came the next part. Clause 3. 2. The Bennett heiress agrees to make public appearances at the discretion of the Collins heir in order to strengthen the joint image of the companies. Clara frowned. Public appearances at his discretion. Was that why Nathan had never taken her to events? She kept reading. Clause 4. 1. The couple agrees to produce an heir within 5 years from the date of the wedding. Clara's blood ran cold. An heir. A deadline 5 years. Clause 4. 2. If the previous clause is not fulfilled, the merger will be re-evaluated, and the companies may choose to dissolve the agreement, including annulment of the marriage. Her hands began to tremble. A marriage with an expiration date. She was a contractual obligation with a countdown, and they were in the 5th year. Clara turned to the last page. There were the signatures, her father's, Nathan's father's, and Nathan's. His signature was firm, confident, like he knew exactly what he was signing. The tears started before she could stop them. All that time, all the recent affection, the breakfasts, the pancakes, the laughter, was it just because the deadline was near? Did he need an heir and finally decide to pretend he cared? The door opened. Nathan walked in, smiling. Clara, I was thinking we could go out to dinner tonight. There's a new restaurant that... He stopped when he saw her face. What happened? Clara held up the documents with shaking hands. When were you going to tell me about this? Nathan's face went pale. Where did you find that? Does it matter? Her voice came out broken. You signed this, Nathan. You signed a contract that turned me into a baby maker with a deadline. Clara, it's not like that, isn't it? She threw the papers onto the table. It's right here in black and white. 5 years to have a child or the marriage is annulled. And guess what? We're in the 5th year, and suddenly you've decided you want me. This has nothing to do with... Don't lie to me, Clara shouted, tears now streaming freely. Not after everything. You ignored me for 5 years, and now conveniently when the time's almost up, you become the perfect husband. Nathan stepped forward. I didn't know about all the clauses. My father handled everything. But you signed it. You signed it knowing our marriage was a business deal. It was at first. But it changed, Clara. I changed. Or maybe you're just desperate not to lose the company. The accusation hung in the air between them, heavy and painful. Nathan looked at her, the hurt clear in his eyes. Do you really believe that? Clara looked at him, at his signature on the papers, and felt her heart breaking. I don't know what to believe anymore. Nathan reached out to her, but she stepped back like his touch would burn her. Don't touch me. Clara, please listen to me. I've listened enough. She pointed at the documents. You bought me, Nathan, like I was property, a piece of furniture with a 5-year warranty. That's not what happened. No? Then explain this clause right here. Clara picked up the paper with trembling hands. If not fulfilled, the marriage is annulled. Annul. Nathan. Not a lease agreement, a marriage. I know it looks terrible. But, no, Nathan, it is terrible. The tears wouldn't stop now. I thought you had changed, that you were finally seeing me. But it was just the clock ticking, wasn't it? No. His voice came out desperate. I changed. Everything I did, everything I felt, it was real. How can I believe that? How, Nathan? He had no answer, and her silence hurt more than anything she could have shouted. Clara wiped the tears from her face, straightened her shoulders. I need to get out of here. What? No, Clara. Wait, I can't stay. Not now. Not while you're looking at me with those sad eyes, and I'm trying to figure out if anything between us was ever real. It was all real. 5 years, Nathan, she yelled, the pain finally breaking loose. 5 years where you treated me like air, like I didn't exist. And now you want me to believe you suddenly love me? How convenient, especially with millions of dollars at stake. It's not about the money. It was always about the money. Clara grabbed her purse. For you, for my father, for your father, everyone but me. I was the fool who actually thought marriage meant something. Nathan stepped in front of the door. You can't leave like this. Move, Nathan. Her voice was calm now, dangerously calm. Or I swear I'll scream until someone calls security, and this will be on the front page of every paper tomorrow. He looked at her for a long moment, the pain plain in his eyes. Then slowly, he stepped aside. Clara walked past him without looking back. The hotel was impersonal and cold, the complete opposite of the mansion. But at least here Clara could cry without worrying about running into Nathan in the hallway. She dropped her suitcase on the floor and fell onto the bed. The tears came all at once, years of rejection mixed with weeks of false hope. Idiot, she whispered to herself. Idiot, idiot, idiot. How could I believe? How could I let my guard down? Her phone rang, Nathan. She hung up. It rang again. She hung up again. On the third call, she turned the phone off completely. The silence in the room felt overwhelming. Clara looked around at the plain white walls and felt free, broken, but free. There were no expectations here, no disappointment waiting to happen, just her and her confused thoughts. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Nathan could not stay still. He paced back and forth in the living room, phone in hand, trying to call Clara for the 10th time straight to voicemail. Damn it. He threw the phone onto the couch. Janet, who was still in the office finishing some reports, appeared at the door. Mr. Collins, is everything all right? No, Janet, nothing is all right. Is there something I can do? Nathan ran his hands through his hair, exhausted. Unless you know how to travel back in time and stop me from signing a stupid contract 5 years ago. No. Janet stayed quiet, unsure what to say. You can go home, Janet. Thank you for your work today. She hesitated, then left, leaving Nathan alone with his demons. He did not sleep that night, nor the next one. Meetings were canceled, board sessions postponed. Nathan Collins, the always punctual and meticulous CEO, was completely falling apart. On the third day, his assistant Daniel entered the office carefully. Mr. Collins, the board is concerned. We've had 3 canceled meetings. And tell them I am sick. But sir, Nathan lifted his eyes, and Daniel stepped back when he saw his expression. I am not in any condition to make business decisions right now. Unless you want me to sell the company for $1 and a sandwich, I should stay away from the board. Daniel swallowed hard and left quickly. At the hotel, Clara tried to stay composed. She ordered room service, watched TV, tried to read, but nothing worked. Her mind kept going back to Nathan, to the pancakes, the laughter, the way he had intertwined his fingers with hers in the garden. Was all of it a lie? The phone rang, but it wasn't Nathan. It was Alex Carter. Clara looked at the name on the screen for a long moment before answering. Hello? Clara. It's good to hear your voice. Alex sounded genuinely happy. Sorry for calling suddenly, but I heard you were working at Collins Industries now and wanted to congratulate you. Thank you. Her voice came out weaker than she meant. Hey, are you all right? Clara took a deep breath. I'm going through a few things. Want to talk? I can meet you for coffee, no pressure, just as a friend. Part of her wanted to say no, but another part, the hurt and confused part, needed someone who wasn't part of the whole mess. All right. Coffee would be good. They met at a quiet cafe in downtown Los Angeles. Alex was already there when Clara arrived, and his warm smile almost made her cry again. Thank you for coming, she said, sitting down. Always. He pushed a cappuccino toward her. I remembered you ordered this at the event. Clara gave a small smile. Good memory. So, want to tell me what's happening? And Clara talked, not everything, but enough about feeling trapped, about learning things that changed her perspective, about not knowing what to believe anymore. Alex listened carefully, without interrupting. When she finished, he said, Can I give you some advice, please? People make mistakes, sometimes huge mistakes, but what matters is what they do after they realize it. He took a sip of his coffee. Nathan Collins may have started everything the wrong way, but from what you told me, he's trying to fix it. The question is, can you forgive the beginning to give a chance to a new start? Clara looked down at the cup in her hands. I don't know if I can trust him again. Trust is rebuilt with time, but only you can decide if it's worth trying. When Clara returned to the hotel that night, she felt a little less lost, still confused, still hurting, but with a little more clarity. Maybe Alex was right. Maybe the question wasn't whether Nathan had made mistakes, he had many, but whether he truly wanted to fix them. But before she could think more about it, Her phone buzzed with a news alert. Nathan Collins announces temporary resignation from Collins Industries for personal reasons. Clara read the headline 3 times, unable to believe it. Meanwhile, at the Collins mansion, Nathan stood in front of his father for the first time in days. Gregory Collins was a commanding man with gray hair and a piercing gaze. He looked at his son with a mix of irritation and concern. "Have you lost your mind?" he thundered. "Step down temporarily in the middle of negotiations with Europe? I don't care about the negotiations." "You don't care? This is your company." "No." Nathan looked him straight in the eye, with a determination the older man had never seen before. "It's your company. It always has been. I just followed the script you wrote, the arranged marriage, the contracts, the ridiculous clauses, all of it. I did what was necessary to protect our legacy. You destroyed my life," Nathan shouted, and Gregory stepped back, surprised. "You made me sign a contract that turned my wife into an obligation with an expiration date. You taught me that love was weakness and emotions were a distraction, and I believed you. But that's over." His voice was calm now, frighteningly calm. "I'm giving it all back, every cent that came from the merger with the Bennetts, and I'm starting from scratch." Gregory turned pale. "You can't do that. You'll ruin years of work." "I don't care." Nathan turned to leave. "For the first time in my life, Dad, I'm doing something because I want to, not because it's strategic, not because it strengthens the company, but because it's right. This is madness." Nathan paused at the door, looking at his father one last time. "No. Madness was wasting 5 years with the woman I love because you convinced me emotions were weakness. Madness was signing that contract without reading it. But this," he pointed to himself, "this is courage. Something you'll never understand." And he walked out, leaving Gregory Collins alone with his anger and his empty empire. The next morning, the law office of Harrison and Associates was packed lawyers, shareholders, board members, all looking at Nathan Collins like he had completely lost his mind. "Mr. Collins," said Theodore Harrison, the senior attorney, adjusting his glasses, "are you absolutely sure about this?" "Absolutely. We're talking about $150 million, possibly more. I know how to do math, Theodore." One of the shareholders, a heavy-set man named Howard, stood up. "This is insanity. You're destroying years of work." "No," Nathan remained calm, so calm it was unsettling. "I'm correcting a mistake that never should have happened." "Mistake?" Howard turned red. "The Bennett-Collins merger was the best thing that ever happened to both companies. It was the worst thing that ever happened to my marriage." The silence that followed was heavy. Theodore cleared his throat. "Mr. Collins, legally speaking, you're under no obligation to return anything. The contract was fulfilled within the terms. I'm not doing this because I have to." Nathan looked around the table. "I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. The Bennett family entered that agreement to save their company. We took advantage of a desperate situation. And me? I turned an incredible woman into a contractual clause." Another shareholder, a middle-aged woman named Patricia, spoke gently. "And does Mrs. Collins agree with this?" Nathan looked down. "She doesn't even know yet. But it doesn't matter if she agrees or not. This is something I have to do." Howard slammed his hand on the table. "You're throwing away your inheritance over marital guilt?" "No." Nathan met his gaze. "I'm reclaiming my humanity, something I lost the day I signed that damned contract." The discussions went on for hours. Numbers were presented. Alternatives were proposed. But Nathan stood firm. By late afternoon, the documents were ready. With a pen in his hand and his heart racing, Nathan signed the full transfer of the shares his family had acquired in the merger back to the Bennetts. Each signature was a fortune being returned, each initial a piece of his empire crumbling. But when he finished, for the first time in years, Nathan felt light. Theodore looked at him with a mix of respect and concern. "You realize this is going to cause a media storm, don't you? Let it come." While Nathan was restructuring his financial life, Clara was in her hotel room trying to do the same with her emotional one. She had woken up that morning with a strange discomfort. She rushed to the bathroom and threw up. It wasn't the first time in the past few days. "Great," she murmured, washing her face. "Now I'm not just emotionally wrecked, I'm physically wrecked too." She ordered ginger tea from room service and tried to calm down. It was probably just stress. People under stress got sick all the time. It was normal, but the nausea continued. Then came the dizziness and the delay. Clara looked at the calendar on her phone, and her heart skipped a beat. No. She shook her head. No, no, no. It can't be. But the more she thought about it, the clearer the signs became. With shaking hands, Clara walked to the nearest pharmacy. She wore sunglasses and a scarf on her head, feeling ridiculously like a spy in a bad movie. The clerk, a young woman with pink hair, gave her a friendly smile. "Can I help you?" I need a—" Clara lowered her voice. "A pregnancy test." "Of course," the girl said, far too loudly. Clara almost dove behind the counter. "We have a few options. Do you want digital or regular?" "Whatever's fastest, please." Back at the hotel, Clara locked herself in the bathroom. She followed the instructions with trembling hands and waited the longest 3 minutes of her life. When she finally looked at the result, the world seemed to stop. 2 lines. Positive. Clara sank to the cold bathroom floor, still holding the test. "Oh my God." The words came out in a whisper. "Oh my God." She was pregnant. Pregnant with Nathan's child, the man she loved and hated in equal measure. The man she had run away from just 1 week ago. The tears came, but this time they felt different: fear, shock, but also something else. Something warm and protective growing in her chest. There was a life inside her, a life she and Nathan had created. Even in the middle of all the pain and confusion, something pure and innocent was happening. And now, she asked her reflection in the mirror, "What do I do now? Tell Nathan? How? Hi. I ran away from you. But guess what? I'm pregnant." Surprise. What if he thought it was a trap? A way to force him to stay? Or worse, what if he stayed out of duty, not love? Clara spent the rest of the day in a storm of thoughts. She paced the room, picked up her phone, then set it down again, wrote messages she never sent. Then that night, while flipping through TV channels aimlessly, something caught her attention. It was Nathan on screen at a press conference. Clara turned up the volume, her heart racing. Nathan stood behind a podium, surrounded by microphones and flashing cameras. He looked tired but determined. "I've decided to return all shares from the Bennett-Collins merger back to the Bennett family," he said, his voice steady. The reporter's murmurs were audible even through the TV. One journalist raised her hand. "Mr. Collins, that means a loss of over $150 million. Why?" Nathan took a deep breath. "Because some things matter more than money." "Like what?" He looked straight into the camera, and Clara felt like he was looking at her. "Like love." The word echoed through the room. "I made mistakes, a lot of them. I turned a marriage into a business deal. I treated the woman I love like a contract, and I lost 5 years I can never get back." Tears began streaming down Clara's face. "This isn't a business move," Nathan continued. "It's an apology to my wife, to the Bennett family, and to myself for ever believing that power and money mattered more than happiness and love." Another reporter shouted, "And what about Collins Industries? What happens now?" "I'll rebuild from scratch if I have to, but this time the right way. No shortcuts, no marriage contracts, no turning people into assets." "And your wife? Does Mrs. Collins agree with your decision?" Nathan hesitated. "I haven't had the chance to speak with her yet, but I hope that one day she can forgive me." The conference went on, but Clara wasn't listening anymore. Tears soaked the pillow she clung to. He had done it. He really had given up everything for her. Clara wiped her face and looked at the pregnancy test still on the nightstand. Then she looked back at Nathan on the screen, vulnerable and honest, in a way she'd never seen before. Maybe Alex was right. Maybe it wasn't about whether Nathan made mistakes, but about what he was willing to do to fix them. And he was willing to lose everything. Clara grabbed her car keys. The next morning, Nathan sat alone in the empty mansion, staring at a cup of cold coffee in his hands. He hadn't slept. He couldn't. The house felt even emptier without Clara. He'd seen the comments online. Some called him crazy, others romantic. Most just didn't understand. But he didn't care. He had done it for one person. And if she never came back, at least he'd know he tried. The intercom buzzed, making him jump. No one ever came without warning. "Yes?" he said, exhausted. "Mr. Collins, someone's here to see you. I'm not taking visitors." "Sir, it's Mrs. Collins." Nathan dropped the cup. It shattered on the floor, but he didn't even notice. "Let her in." His voice broke. Let her in now. He ran to the front door, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. He opened it with such force it nearly came off the hinges. And there she was, Clara Bennett Collins, with a bag on her shoulder, her hair down, her eyes red from crying. But she was there, present, real. "Hi," she said, her voice weak. "Hi." Nathan could barely breathe. You came back. I watched your press conference." And Clara stepped forward. "I think we need to talk." Nathan nodded, unable to take his eyes off her, as if blinking might make her disappear. "Can I come in?" she asked. "Of course." Clara took a deep breath, her hand unconsciously resting on her stomach where a secret was growing. "There's a lot I need to tell you." Clara stepped into the mansion slowly, as if walking into unfamiliar ground. Everything looked the same, the furniture, the paintings, the fresh scent of cleaning products. But at the same time, everything felt completely different. Nathan closed the door behind her, keeping a respectful distance. He looked exhausted with deep circles under his eyes and an unshaven face, but his eyes were filled with a hope Clara recognized. "Would you like to sit?" he offered, gesturing toward the living room. "I think that's best." They sat in the same spot on the couch where they had laughed together just weeks ago. It felt like a lifetime. Silence stretched between them, heavy and full. Nathan wanted to speak first, but was clearly afraid of saying the wrong thing. Clara bit her lip, searching for the right words. "I watched your press conference," she finally said. "I figured." Nathan ran his hand through his messy hair. It was intense. "You really gave it all back?" "Every cent." Clara shook her head in disbelief. "You lost a fortune, Nathan." "I didn't lose anything." He looked her straight in the eye. "I got my dignity back and maybe a chance to win you back." The tears came without warning. Clara tried to hold them in, but it was no use. Nathan moved closer instinctively but stopped himself just before touching her. "What is it? Did I say something wrong?" Clara laughed through her tears, the sound broken and soft. "No, you said everything right. It's just that I have something to tell you, and I'm terrified. You can tell me anything. I promise I'll listen." She took a deep breath, her hands trembling. "Nathan, I'm pregnant." Time seemed to stop. The world seemed to freeze completely. His eyes wide, his mouth slightly open. For a moment Clara feared he'd gone into shock. "You what?" "I'm pregnant." Her voice was steadier now. "I found out yesterday. I took 3 tests, all positive." Nathan kept staring at her, trying to process it. Then slowly his eyes filled with tears. "We're going to have a baby." "Yes." He dropped to his knees in front of her, hands covering his face. His shoulders shook. "Nathan." Clara touched his shoulder, worried. "Are you all right?" When he finally looked up, he was smiling and crying at the same time. A wave of emotion so strong it took Clara's breath away. "We're going to have a baby," he repeated, voice full of emotion. "Clara, we're going to be parents." "I know. It's scary." "It's wonderful." He laughed a pure, honest laugh. "It's the most wonderful thing that's ever happened to me." Clara couldn't hold back anymore. She threw herself into his arms, and they cried together, kneeling on the living room floor, holding each other like nothing else in the world mattered. "I was so afraid to tell you," Clara confessed. "I thought you'd think it was a trap or that you'd stay with me out of obligation." Nathan held her face in his hands. "Clara, look at me. I'm not here out of obligation. I'm here because I love you. I loved you before I knew about the baby. I love you now, and I'll love you forever." "How can I be sure?" "Because I gave up everything," he said, wiping her tears with his thumbs. "The money, the company, my relationship with my father, all of it. And you know what? I feel relief. Because none of that means anything if I don't have you." Clara sobbed. "You're a romantic fool." "I am," he smiled. "But I'm your romantic fool." They stayed there for a long time, just holding each other, letting the truth of it all sink in. There was a baby, a new life, a new chance for all of them. "Can we talk about everything?" Nathan asked. "About what happened, about the contract, about all of it." Clara nodded. "I want to understand truly." They sat on the floor, leaning against the couch, and Nathan began to talk. He told her how his father had always pressured him to be cold and calculated, how he grew up believing that feelings were weakness, how he'd signed that contract without really thinking through the consequences because he was only focused on doing what was right for the business. I was a coward, he admitted. I was so afraid of feeling something for you that I chose to pretend you didn't exist. But Clara, you were always there in every thought, in every moment. I was just really good at lying to myself. And what changed? She asked softly. That event, seeing you laugh, being yourself with someone else. I realized I was really going to lose you. And the thought was unbearable. Clara took his hand. You hurt me deeply, Nathan. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it. I don't want compensation. She looked him in the eye. I want partnership. I want honesty. I want a real marriage. That's all I want, too. They talked for hours about fears, about hopes, about the baby. Nathan wanted to know everything when she found out, how she was feeling, if she needed anything. I need you to promise me something, Clara said at one point. Anything. Promise you won't turn into that nervous dad who treats his pregnant wife like she's made of glass. Nathan laughed. I can't promise that. I'm already panicking just thinking about you climbing stairs. Nathan. What? Stairs are dangerous. There are statistics. Clara rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. You're going to be unbearable, aren't you? Absolutely. He pulled her closer. But you love me anyway. I do. The words came naturally, without fear. I love you, Nathan Collins, even when you're an overprotective idiot with emotional constipation. Hey, I've overcome the emotional part. True. Now you're just the overprotective idiot. They both laughed, and it was freeing, as if all the weeks of tension finally melted away in that one light-hearted moment. You know what's funny? Clara said. For 5 years I dreamed of this moment of you finally seeing me, and now that it's happening, it feels surreal. It does to me, too. Nathan kissed her forehead. But it's real, Clara. I promise it is. He suddenly stood up, startling her. What is it? Wait here just a minute. Nathan ran upstairs. Clara heard doors opening and closing, drawers being pulled. She laughed, imagining him frantically searching for something. When he came back, he was out of breath and holding a small box. Clara's eyes widened. Nathan, what? He got down on one knee, and her heart skipped a beat. Clara Bennett Collins. His voice shook a little. 5 years ago I married you for all the wrong reasons, for money, for business, for strategy, and I wasted precious years of your life being a foolish coward. Nathan, let me finish. He opened the box, revealing a simple white gold ring with a small diamond. I don't want our marriage to be about contracts or clauses. I don't want you to stay because of a piece of paper. I want you to stay because you want to. The tears returned. So, Nathan took a deep breath. Clara, will you marry me for real this time? Not for business or family, but for love? Will you give me a second chance to be the husband you've always deserved? Clara looked at him, at that man who had made so many mistakes but who was now here, vulnerable and sincere, offering his heart with no defenses. Yes. The word came out in a whisper. Yes. I will. Nathan slipped the ring onto her finger, his hands shaking so much he nearly dropped it. Clara laughed through her tears and held his hand to help. When the ring was finally in place, Nathan pulled her into a hug so tight she could hardly breathe. Thank you, he whispered into her hair. Thank you for giving me this chance. Thank you for fighting for us. They stayed that way for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms on the living room floor. The simple ring shining on Clara's hand, a baby growing inside her, and finally, a real future beginning to take shape. 3 months passed like a dream. Clara was now almost 5 months pregnant, and her belly had started to show in the most beautiful way. Nathan, as expected, had become absolutely unbearable in the best possible way. You shouldn't be carrying that, he said for the 1,000th time, trying to take the light bag Clara was holding. Nathan, it's a purse. It weighs less than 2 pounds. But you're carrying our child. That's more than enough weight. Clara rolled her eyes but smiled. You need to relax, or you'll have a heart attack before the baby is born. Impossible. I bought a book on mindful fatherhood. I've learned breathing techniques. Breathing techniques are for me, not you. I know, but I'll need them so I don't faint in the delivery room. Janet, who'd been watching from the office doorway, couldn't hold back a laugh. Clara winked at her, and the assistant finally burst out laughing. "Sorry, Mrs. Collins, but you two are just too sweet." "Adorable." Clara pretended to be offended. "I prefer hilariously functional." In those months, Nathan had kept every promise. The mansion, once cold and quiet, now echoed with laughter. They had coffee together every morning, dinner while talking about everything and nothing. And Nathan, true to his overprotective nature, had already turned an entire room into a nursery, even though Clara kept insisting it was too early. "Is it too pink?" he asked one night, looking at the walls he had painted himself. "Considering we don't know the gender yet, yes, it's very pink. But what if it's a girl? And what if it's a boy? He'll grow up thinking he lives inside a flamingo." Nathan frowned. "I can repaint it." "Nathan, no." Clara held his hand. "It's perfect. And if it's a boy, we'll paint it later. No drama." "Are you sure?" "Completely. Now come here, this flamingo is hungry." The idea to renew their vows came up on an ordinary morning while they were having coffee. "You know," Nathan said, playing with Clara's fingers, "I've been thinking. That's never a good sign." "Hey." He pretended to be offended. "I do have good ideas sometimes." Sometimes is the key word. "Well, this one is good." Nathan stood up and knelt in front of her. Clara was used to these dramatic gestures of his. "How about we renew our vows?" Clara froze with her cup in mid-air. "Renew?" "Yes, a real ceremony. Small, intimate, just the people we love. No contracts, no pressure, just the two of us promising to stay together because we want to." Her eyes filled with tears, pregnancy hormones. "Of course. You really want that?" "More than anything. I want to start our story again the right way." "Then yes." She smiled, through the tears. "Let's renew our vows." The ceremony was set for a sunny autumn Saturday. They chose the mansion's garden, decorated simply with white flowers and light wooden chairs. Nothing flashy, nothing over the top, just perfect. Clara wore a champagne-colored silk dress that fit her baby bump perfectly. Her hair was loose in soft waves, topped with a small flower crown. She looked radiant. Nathan was waiting for her at the simple altar. And when he saw her, his eyes filled with tears. "You look—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Beautiful? Huge? Like a whale?" Clara joked. "Perfect." He took her hands. "You look perfect." They had only invited 20 people, Janet and Daniel from the company, a few of Clara's close friends. And surprisingly, Gregory Collins was there too. Nathan's relationship with his father was still complicated, but they were trying. Gregory came up before the ceremony. "Son," his voice was less commanding now, almost humble. "Dad, I was wrong about a lot of things, and I want you to know I'm proud of you, of the man you've become." Nathan was speechless for a moment. "Thank you, Dad. That means a lot." They hugged, brief but sincere. Clara watched from a distance, smiling. The ceremony was led by a cheerful officiant named Thomas, who had a knack for making everyone laugh. "Nathan," Thomas began, "do you promise to love this woman, respect her choices, and stop panicking every time she walks up a staircase?" Laughter echoed. Nathan blushed. "I promise, or at least I'll try." "Clara, do you promise to love this man even when he becomes a neurotic and overprotective dad?" "I promise." She squeezed Nathan's hand. "Even when he's unbearable?" "Hey, truth hurts, dear." More laughter. When it was time for their personal vows, Nathan took a deep breath. "Clara, I wasted 5 years pretending you didn't exist, 5 years being a coward. But you gave me a second chance, and I promise here in front of God and everyone I will spend the rest of my life being worthy of that chance. I'll love you on the good days and the bad. I'll support you. I'll make you laugh even with terrible jokes. And I'll be the best father our child could have." Clara wiped her tears. "Oh my goodness. How am I supposed to top that?" "You don't have to. Just be you." "Okay." She took a deep breath. "Nathan, you were my biggest mistake and my best decision. For years I hated you for ignoring me, but now I understand that sometimes people need to get lost to find themselves. You were lost, but you found your way, and I love you for that. I promise to support you, challenge you when needed, and make fun of your neurosis when you're being impossible." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." Everyone laughed, and Thomas declared them officially this time husband and wife. The kiss was gentle, full of promises and new beginnings. During the party, While Clara chatted with Janet about nursery decorations, someone walked up to her. Clara. She turned and widened her eyes. Alex. Alex Carter was there, looking as sharp as ever with a warm, genuine smile. Surprised completely. What are you doing here? Nathan invited me, Alex said with a smile. He said it was important for both of you. Clara looked at her husband, who gave her a wave from a distance. Her heart filled up. I came to wish you well, Alex continued. Truly, you both deserve it. Thank you, Alex, for everything. For being kind when I needed it. It was a pleasure meeting you, Clara. And now I'll say goodbye. He extended his hand. I've got a flight to New York in a few hours, new business opportunity. Clara shook his hand. Good luck, and thank you. Really take care of him, and let him take care of you too. I'll try. Alex said goodbye to Nathan with a firm handshake and left. Clara felt like a chapter had closed. That man had represented a moment of confusion but also clarity, and now he was gone, leaving only room for the future. Nathan stepped onto the small makeshift stage and raised his glass. I'd like to make a toast. Everyone turned toward him, to new beginnings, to second chances, and to never letting pride win over love again. Clara, you taught me that real wealth isn't in bank accounts but in waking up next to someone you love, and I promise here and now to honor that every day. To love, everyone shouted. Clara wiped her tears again. Hormones? She murmured. Of course, said Janet, standing beside her. Definitely just the hormones. 2 weeks later, Clara and Nathan were at a rented beach house in Malibu for their honeymoon, nothing fancy, just a cozy place with an ocean view. Are you sure you're comfortable? Nathan asked for the 100th time. Nathan. I'm fine. Stop treating me like I'm made of glass. You're carrying our baby. You're more valuable than glass. That was sweet. Still neurotic, but sweet. They spent their days walking on the beach, talking about everything, about baby names, about what life would be like with a child, about the dreams they had put on hold and could now finally pursue. What if it's a boy? How about Nathan Jr.? Nathan suggested. Absolutely not. Why not? Because one of you is enough. Thank you very much. Clara laughed. How about something classic? Thomas? Michael? What if it's a girl? Grace? Sophie? Lily? Nathan gently touched her belly. Lily Collins. That sounds beautiful. It really does. One night while they were having dinner on the porch watching the sunset, Nathan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. Who is it? Clara asked. Jonathan Price, an old business partner. Are you going to answer? Nathan hesitated but picked up. Jonathan. Clara watched as his expression shifted. Surprise, interest, then caution. I see. That's an interesting offer but risky. Nathan looked at Clara. Can I think about it and get back to you? He hung up and stared at the phone. What is it? Clara leaned in. Jonathan has a business proposal. Nathan took a deep breath. A sustainable tech startup, high risk but high potential too. And are you interested? I am. He reached for her hand. But not without talking to you first. We're partners now, remember? Clara smiled. Tell me more about the offer. Nathan spent the next hour walking her through Jonathan's proposal. The startup focused on renewable energy technology for low-income communities. The initial investment was significant, but the social impact would be huge. It's risky, Nathan admitted. Very risky, but it's exactly the kind of project that makes sense now. Clara bit her lip, thinking. And what would your role be? Jonathan wants me as co-founder. But here's the interesting part, Nathan leaned in. He also suggested you join as a full partner. Me? Clara's eyes widened. Nathan, I just barely went back to work. And you were amazing. Janet won't stop talking about how you reorganized the entire filing system. Daniel calls you the efficiency fairy. He does not. He does, just not in front of you. Clara laughed, but she was clearly unsure. What if it doesn't work? What if I mess everything up? Nathan held her hands. Impossible. You're smarter than most business people I know. And this time it wouldn't be my company you're working at, it would be our company. Together from the beginning. Collins and Bennett Consulting? Clara suggested. Actually, I was thinking of something else. Nathan smiled. How about Bennett and Collins? You first. You're joking. I'm completely serious. Clara felt her eyes well up again, Those hormones. This means a lot to me. I know. That's why I want to do it right. They stayed up late talking through all the possibilities. Clara shared her concerns. What if work took over their lives? What if they started arguing again? What if the baby came right in the middle of all the chaos? Then let's set some rules, Nathan suggested. Clear boundaries between work and home. No business talk after 8 p.m. Weekends are sacred family time only. What if something urgent comes up? We handle it together as partners. Clara took a deep breath. All right, let's do it. The next day they called Jonathan and accepted the offer. The following month was organized chaos meetings with lawyers, brainstorming sessions, building the business model. Clara discovered she had a natural talent for operations and logistics, while Nathan thrived in strategy and investor relations. The company was officially registered as Bennett and Collins International Consulting, a fusion not of families or fortunes, but of dreams and purpose. The first office was small, 3 rooms in a commercial building in downtown Los Angeles. Nothing like the luxury of Collins Industries, but it was theirs, truly theirs. This place feels like a glorified closet, Clara said on their first day, looking around. It's cozy, Nathan replied. The meeting room fits 6 people barely. If everyone breathes at once, we'll suffocate. Details. He pulled her into a hug. It's our glorified closet. Janet agreed to join them as office manager and brought Daniel along. The small startup team was dedicated and full of energy. As the months passed and Clara's belly grew, balancing work and personal life became more challenging and sometimes hilarious. One morning, Clara was in a video call with potential investors when the baby kicked hard. As I was saying, our sustainability model, ow. She winced. Is everything all right, Mrs. Bennett? One of the investors asked, concerned. Perfectly fine, Clara smiled, holding her belly. The baby just had something to say about our third quarter numbers. Nathan, sitting beside her, struggled to keep a straight face. When the meeting ended, he burst out laughing. The baby had something to say. He could barely talk through his laughter. Clara, you're amazing. Hey. It was a solid recovery for someone who just got kicked in the ribs in high definition in front of 5 investors. Like any partnership, the occasional disagreement popped up. Clara thought Nathan was too cautious. Nathan thought Clara took too many risks. But they learned to negotiate, to compromise, to find common ground. You're impossible, Clara exclaimed one day after a heated debate about expansion. And you're stubborn. I prefer the term persistent. Stubborn. Persistent. They stared at each other for a second, then Clara laughed. Nathan followed. Soon they were laughing so hard Janet came in to check if everything was okay. We're fine, Clara said, wiping tears of laughter. Just having a healthy, functionally dysfunctional marriage. Is that even possible? Janet asked. For us it is, they both replied at the same time. When Clara reached her 8th month of pregnancy, Nathan's overprotectiveness reached new heights. You shouldn't be going up those stairs, he said for the 1000th time. Nathan, it's 3 steps. 3 dangerous steps. You bought a non-slip mat for each one. You can never be too careful. Daniel leaned over to Janet and whispered, Is he going to survive the delivery? Honestly, I'm worried, she replied. A week before the due date, they had a crucial meeting with international investors, the biggest opportunity for the company so far. A deal that could put them on the global map. Maybe you should stay home, Nathan suggested for the 3rd time that morning. Absolutely not. Clara adjusted the blazer that barely fit over her belly. I worked just as hard on this proposal as you did. I'm going. But what if? Nathan Collins. If you finish that sentence, I swear I'll go into labor just out of spite. He raised his hands in surrender. Okay. You're going, but I'm driving. Obviously. You haven't let me touch the steering wheel in 3 months. The meeting was scheduled for 2:00 inches the afternoon. At 10 a.m., Clara started feeling a strange discomfort in her back. Just tension, she muttered to herself. Pre-meeting stress. Totally normal. By noon, the discomfort had turned into occasional cramps. Clara ignored them. She wasn't going to miss that meeting, not after all the work they had put into it. 2 came. The conference room was packed, 6 investors from 3 different countries. Nathan opened the presentation with confidence, and Clara followed with data and projections. Everything was going perfectly until it wasn't. A sharp pain shot through Clara's abdomen. She paused mid-sentence, taking a deep breath. "Mrs. Bennett?" One of the investors leaned forward. "Are you all right?" "Yes. Yes." Clara forced a smile. "Just where was I?" "Oh, right. Second-year projections." Another contraction, stronger this time. Clara gripped the table. Nathan looked at her, eyes wide. "Clara, I'm fine," she whispered through clenched teeth. "Keep going." But as she took her next step, she felt something wet run down her legs. "Oh no. My water." Clara looked at Nathan, her eyes wide. "My water just broke." Time seemed to stop. Nathan went pale, completely pale, like all the blood had drained from his body. "Your what?" "My water, Nathan. The baby's coming now." "Yes, now." "Do you think I planned this?" The investors stood up in a panic, offering help in 3 different languages. Janet appeared out of nowhere with towels. Daniel was already on the phone with emergency services. And Nathan was frozen in place, staring at Clara like she was an alien. "Nathan." Clara shook him. "Breathe." "I can't." His voice was high and shaky. "The baby, the hospital, the water, not in that order. Or maybe in that order. I don't know. Oh my goodness. He's having a breakdown," Janet muttered. Clara, despite the pain, couldn't help but laugh. "Nathan Collins, you faced angry shareholders, lost millions, defied your father, and now you're panicking because your baby decided to be born?" "Yes," he yelled, "because this is real and terrifying and you're having a baby now." Another contraction hit, and Clara squeezed Nathan's hand so hard he groaned. "Car now," she ordered. Nathan finally snapped into action. He scooped Clara up, literally picked her up despite her protests, and ran to the elevator. "The presentations," one of the investors shouted. "We'll reschedule," Nathan shouted back as the elevator doors closed behind them. Janet looked at the confused investors and smiled. "Welcome to Bennett and Collins International Consulting. It's never boring." The ride to the hospital was pure chaos and a little comedy. Nathan drove like he was in an action movie, honking at cars that weren't even in his way. "Nathan, you almost hit that pole." "I saw the pole." "You were looking at me, not the pole." "Because you're having a baby." "I know I'm having a baby. I'm right here." Another contraction hit Clara, and she took a deep breath. "But if you kill us before we get to the hospital, it's kind of pointless." When they finally got to the emergency entrance, Nathan jumped out so fast he forgot to turn off the engine. A nurse had to yell at him to come back. "Sir, your car. The baby is more important. Your car is blocking the ambulance." Nathan ran back, shut off the car, tossed the keys to the valet, and rushed to Clara, who was being placed in a wheelchair. "I'm here," he said, grabbing her hand. "I'm not leaving you." "Nathan, you were gone for 15 seconds. It was the longest 15 seconds of my life." The medical team wheeled them into the delivery room. A nurse named Linda, a warm woman in her 50s, tried to calm Nathan down. "Mr. Collins, you need to breathe." "I am breathing." "You're hyperventilating. Sit down before you faint." "I'm not going to faint." 2 minutes later, Nathan was sitting with his head between his knees while Linda offered him water. Clara, even in pain, couldn't stop laughing. "You practiced breathing techniques for 3 months, and you're being more dramatic than me." "This is different," he said, muffled. "When we practiced, you weren't having real contractions." Dr. Harrison, the OB-GYN, walked in with a calm smile. "Well, looks like we've got a baby eager to meet the world." He glanced at Nathan, and a dad eager to meet the floor. "I'm fine," Nathan said, standing up shakily. "Of course you are, Doctor." Harrison winked at Clara. "We've got a bucket ready just in case." The next few hours were intense. Clara was strong, stronger than she ever imagined. Between contractions, she cracked jokes to keep spirits up and to distract Nathan, who was clearly on the verge of a nervous breakdown. "You know," she said at one point, "if I survive this, you're not allowed to complain about anything for the next 10 years. "Agreed completely," Nathan said, kissing her forehead. "You're the most amazing woman in the world. Remember that when I wake you up at 3 a.m. to change a diaper, I'll change every diaper forever. I'm holding you to that." After 6 hours of labor, "Dr. Harrison finally announced, 'It's time.'" With the next contraction, I want you to push, Clara. Nathan held her hand, and Clara squeezed it so tightly that he winced, but he didn't complain. He just stayed there, whispering words of encouragement. You can do this. I know you can. You're strong. You're amazing. Then, in a moment that felt like time had stopped, a cry filled the room. It's a boy, Doctor, Harrison announced, holding up a small, perfect baby. Clara started crying. Nathan did too. Nurse Linda, who had witnessed hundreds of births, wiped her eyes quietly. The baby was quickly cleaned and placed on Clara's chest. She looked at that red, wrinkled little face and felt her heart overflow. Hi, little one, she whispered. We've been waiting for you for so long. Nathan, kneeling beside the bed, gently touched the baby's tiny hand. The boy grabbed his finger with surprising strength. He's perfect, Nathan said, his voice choked. Absolutely perfect. What should we name him? Clara asked. Nathan looked at her, then at their son. How about Henry? Henry James Collins. Henry, Clara tried the name. Henry Collins. I love it. Welcome to parenthood, Dr. Harrison said with a smile. Get ready to never sleep through the night again. I don't mind, Nathan answered, eyes still on his son. I'd do it all again 1,000 times. The months that followed were a roller coaster, sleepless nights, endless diapers, cries that made no sense, and lots of coffee. But there were also first smiles, first laughs, and that unique baby smell that made all the exhaustion fade away. Bennett and Collins International Consulting thrived, despite, or maybe because of, the chaos. The investors who had witnessed Clara's labor sent flowers and became loyal partners. After all, as they said, if the couple could manage a crisis like that with grace, they could handle any business challenge. The mansion, once cold and quiet, was now full of life. Baby laughter echoed through the halls. Colorful toys filled the living room. And every Saturday morning the smell of perfectly golden pancakes Nathan had become an expert filled the house. Gregory Collins became a surprisingly devoted grandfather. He visited every week, always bringing a new gift for Henry, and a silent apology in his eyes. Janet and Daniel became honorary aunt and uncle, always ready to babysit so the couple could enjoy the occasional night off. A year passed like a dream. On Henry's first birthday, Clara and Nathan threw a garden party, simple decorations, colorful balloons, a 3-tier cake. Clara insisted on baking a bit lopsided but perfect, and the people they loved. Henry, now with dark hair and curious eyes like his father's, sat in his high chair, happily smashing a piece of cake with his hands. He definitely got your grace, Nathan joked, taking pictures. And your modesty, Clara replied. As the afternoon went on and guests chatted cheerfully, soft music started playing. Nathan reached out his hand to Clara. May I have this dance in the garden, in front of everyone? Exactly in the garden, in front of everyone. Clara took his hand, and they began to dance slowly on the grass. Nathan was clumsy, he'd never been a good dancer, but he didn't care. And Clara loved every awkward step. You know, Nathan said, pulling her closer, I've done a lot of things wrong in my life. But somehow I ended up here with you, with Henry, with a life worth living. Clara rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. True love can't be bought, Nathan. It's built with patience, with forgiveness, with courage. And we built it together. And we'll keep building every single day. Every single day, she agreed. Henry shouted from his high chair, wanting attention. They both laughed and walked over, each taking one of his frosting-covered hands. Gregory snapped a photo of that moment, the three of them smiling, bathed in sunlight and happiness. Clara looked around at the mansion that was now a home, at the people they loved, at the man she almost lost but who fought to stay, and at the boy who represented everything they had overcome. She leaned in and whispered in Nathan's ear as Henry laughed between them. At last, we are what we were meant to be from the beginning. A family, Nathan kissed her forehead. Then Henry's. A family, he repeated, smiling. The best family in the world. And there, under the blue Los Angeles sky, with the sound of laughter and the smell of cake in the air, the Collins family began the rest of their lives together finally, completely.